Hello students, I am Renu Matthew, Assistant Professor, MC Department, IICMR Pune. Students, let's first understand the term life cycle. A life cycle is a sequence of changes an entity goes through from one form to another. When we talk about the software project management life cycle, the project is the entity that changes forms. The project management life cycle is a series of activities which are essential for accomplishing project objectives or targets. Projects may have different dimensions and difficulty level, but whatever the size, large or small, all projects could be mapped to the given life cycle structure. This life cycle structure for the project management includes four phases: initiation phase, planning phase, execution phase, and monitoring, control, and closing phase. We will first look into initiation phase. Initiation phase defines those processes that are required to start a new project. The purpose of the project initiation phase is to determine what the project should accomplish. This phase mainly composed of two main activities: developing a project charter and identifying the stakeholders. All the information related to the project are entered into the project charter and stakeholder register. When the project charter is approved, the project becomes officially authorized. The project charter is a document which defines the project's main elements such as project goals, project constraints and problem statements, stakeholder list, high-level schedule and budget, project milestones and approvals. This document allows the project manager to utilize organizational resources for the sake of the project. To create a project charter, the inputs required will be the enterprise environment factor, business cases, agreements, a project statement of work, and organizational process assets. A stakeholder can influence the success and failure of the project. To note down the information about the stakeholder, a stakeholder register is used. The stakeholder register will have information like type of stakeholder and their expectations, their role in project, whether a business analyst or a technical architect or a client project manager. So the role differs. Designation of the stakeholder, whether director, business lead, etc., etc. Type of communication required, whether communication is required on weekly basis or on monthly basis. Stakeholders' influence on the project, whether he is partial or supportive. The other activities involved in initiating process group are assigning the project manager, determining the stakeholder needs, expectations, and high-level requirements, defining the project success criteria, identifying budget stage-wise, and to make sure that the project is aligned with the organization's strategic goal. Project planning phase covers about 50% of the whole process of project management lifecycle. Planning phase determines the scope of the project as well as the objective of the project. The important aspects of planning process are: planning phase should not be executed before your initial planning is finished. Until the execution process does not start, you should not stop revising plans. For any successful project, work breakdown structure is important. The steps to create the work breakdown structure are: involve your team and conduct a brainstorm to list all the project tasks. Write down the structure tree of the task, also known as the WBS. Further break down your top WS into a hierarchical set of activities, for instance, categories, subcategories, etc. Or it can be like hardware, software, trainee, management teams, like that also you can have your WS created. Define how to record the items into your WBS. Decide on granularity. how detailed your task should be. Granularity should be of right level, not too high or not too low to make cost estimation easier. Plan scheduling is a process of establishing the procedure, policies, and documentation for planning, managing, executing, and controlling the project schedule. The inputs in these activities include project management plan, project charter, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. The output of the planning schedule management is the schedule management plan. Once the schedule management plan is done, the activities should be defined. Defining activities is the procedure for documenting and identifying specific actions to be performed to produce the project deliverables. Each work package is broken down into individual work schedule activities. The inputs for the defining activities are schedule management plan, the scope baseline, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. While the outputs are activity list, activity attributes, milestone list. After the activities are defined, it is needed to be sequenced, that is, logically organized. The main output from the sequence activity process is the network diagram. A network diagram is a diagram used for posting the task on a board in a logical order. For example, you can start a business in foreign country. What will be your list of activities and what will be the order it should be done? You will perform the activities in an order, like choose a country, get business permit, hire a manager, buy a property, buy office materials, and then open the business. So what you have done is that you have arranged the activities in a sequence. Once the activities are arranged, the manager estimates activity resources. It includes the process of estimating the work effort and resources required to complete the task. Availability of the resources should be considered while estimation, and the focus should be on the longest path of the plan, which is called as the critical path. And the critical path, or the activities which are there on the critical path, will consume more time and money in your project. There are 5 inputs used to estimate activity resources: schedule management plan, activity list, resource calendar, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. The output of this stage will be activity resource requirements, resource breakdown structure, and project documentation updation. All the activities that is done so far, that is defining activities, sequence activities, and estimation of activity resources, is done to help to develop the schedule. Estimating activity duration is a process of estimating the number of work periods. It can be weeks or per month required to complete the individual tasks with estimated resources. This step defines how much time an individual takes to complete a task. To estimate activity duration, you need as inputs activity list, activity attributes, resource calendars, project scope statement, organizational process assets, and enterprise environmental factors. As an output, the manager will come up with PERT, that is Project Evaluation and Review Techniques Estimates. Estimation of activity duration is followed by Develop Schedule. Develop Schedule is the process of analyzing activity sequences, resource requirements, duration, and schedule constraints to create the project schedule model. For scheduling each task, 3 main factors are taken into consideration: duration, task dependencies, and constraints. Using these factors, we can calculate the start date and the finish date for each task. A scheduling software can be used to create a schedule, for example, MS project, which we will be learning in due course. It generates a schedule model with planned dates for completing project activities. The input of this tool includes schedule management plan, activity list, activity attributes, network diagram, activity resource requirements, resource calendars, activity duration estimates, project scope statement, risk register, project staff assignments, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. The output from this would be project schedule, project network diagram, Gantt charts or bar charts, milestone chart, schedule baseline, schedule data, and project document updates. The last stage of the planning phase is control schedule. It is the process of monitoring the status of the project activities to update project process and manage changes to the schedule baseline. If changes are required to the schedule, they must go through the change control process. The schedule should be managed or controlled by the manager proactively. There are four main outputs of control schedule process: project management plan, schedule baseline, schedule management plan, project schedule, work performance information, organizational process assets. And the outputs are work performance management, organizational process assets updates, change request, project management plan updates, and project document updates. The third phase of project management lifecycle is project execution stage. The project execution phase consists of those activities that are defined in the project management plan. This process involves managing stakeholder expectations, coordinating with people and resources, as well as performing other activities related to project deliverables. During the execution phase, it may be required to re-baseline and update existing project requirements. Action taken in execution phase may affect the project management plan or documents. Direct and manage project execution. This stage consumes most of the project cost, time, and resources, as this is the process that produces project deliverables. The inputs to direct and manage project execution are project management plan, approved change request, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. And the outputs are deliverables, that means the project deliverables, work performance data, change request, project management plan updates, and project document updates. During this stage, experts' judgment, meetings, and reporting the key performance indicators are of prime importance. Performing quality assurance is a process of auditing the quality requirements and the results from quality control measurements. Various tools like control charts, cost-benefit analysis, flow chart, run charts, scatter diagrams, inspection and reviews can be used for this purpose. The main inputs are project management plan, quality metrics, quality control measurements, work performance information, and the output of this are change request, project management plan updates, project document updates, organizational process assets updates. During the execution phase, project team acquiring takes place. This is because it is more likely that individuals with different skill set will be required during the phase. The three main inputs to acquire project team are roles and responsibilities, project organization chart, and staffing management plan. While there are three outputs, project staff assignments, resource calendars, and project management plan updates. Developing project team is also a part of project execution phase. The main purpose is to improve the overall performance of team members. This stage must start early on the project. The inputs in project development team include human resource management plan, project staff assignments, resource calendars. Output of this process include team performance assessments and enterprise environmental factors updates. Managing project team is one of the most important parts of project management, and it is the most complex area as many times managers would not be in direct contact with team members. In such situation, to analyze the performance and deciding their remuneration becomes difficult. There are 5 inputs to manage project team process, which are staff assignments, team performance assignments, performance reports, project management plan, and organizational process assets. And there are 4 main outputs: organizational process assets updates, enterprise environmental factors updates, change request, and project management plan updates. There is always a need to manage communications. There are 3 main communication aspects that need to be monitored: project team members to the project manager to the program manager to stakeholders or other sponsors. The input of managing communications include communication management plan, work performance reports, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. The output of this stage would be project communications, project management plan updates, project document updates, organizational process assets updates. In this stage, there are 2 main roles involved: the buyer and the seller. During the procurement process, the activities involved are issue the bid package to potential sellers, hold bidder conferences, evaluate potential seller proposals, select the winning seller proposals, and the output would be project management plan, conduct procurement documents, source selection criteria, qualified seller list, seller proposals, project documents, make or buy decisions, partnership agreement with or the teaming agreement, and organizational process assets. This stage also includes actively managing stakeholders throughout the project. To avoid unexpected project delay or abandoning the project in between, stakeholder expectation is identified and quickly resolved. There are 5 inputs to manage stakeholder process: stakeholder register, stakeholder management strategy, project management plan, issue log, change log, organizational process assets. The output of this process include organizational process assets updates, change request, project management plan updates, and project documentation updates. At the end of the execution phase, project phase review is done. It helps you to document the result of your project management review. So the activities performed are: inform the sponsor about the progress of the project, identifying any risk or issues that impacted the project, show deliverables to stakeholder produced during the project, seek approval to proceed to the next phase. Project monitoring and controlling and closing stage. After execution phase, to check the project is on the right track, monitoring and controlling phase becomes active. During this phase, various changes and reviews to enhance the project performance is done. Monitor and control project work stage involves tracking, reviewing, and regulating the progress in order to meet the objectives of the project. It also ensures that the deliverables are according to the project management plan. The main focus of this step is to identify any changes made from the point of project management plan to determine appropriate preventive action. The inputs include project management plan, performance reports, cost forecast, schedule forecast, validate changes, enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets, while the output includes change request, project management plan updates, and project document updates. After monitoring and controlling project work, integrated change control is done. In this stage, the impact of any change is assessed against the project. If a change occurs at any one part of a project, the whole project will be assessed. It is better to implement changes at an early stage of the project because as the project progresses, the cost of implementing changes also increases. The inputs in this stage includes project management plan, work performance reports, and change request. And the outputs are approved change request, change log, project management plan updates, and project document updates. Validating scope involves verifying whether the deliverables meet the customer acceptance criteria. The external checking with the customer or stakeholders is an integral part of validating scope management. The inputs are project management plan, requirements, documentation, requirement traceability matrix, verified deliverables, and work performance data. While the output of the scope validation includes accepted deliverables, change requests, work performance information, and project document updates. Control scope ensures that the work identified as being in scope is only delivered. For this, the actual result is compared against the scope baseline. The input to control scope process includes project management plan, work performance information, requirement documentation, requirement traceability matrix, and organizational process assets. While the output are work performance measurements, organizational process assets updates, change request, project management plan updates, and project document updates. Control schedule process helps you to capture current schedule status, determine the variance from the schedule baseline, understand the nature of the variance, and respond by taking appropriate action. If changes are needed to the schedule, then they must go through the change control process. The change should be re-evaluated and only then it should be used to update the schedule baseline. So the inputs are project management plan, schedule baseline, schedule management plan, project schedule, work performance information, and organizational process assets. The output includes work performance measurements, organizational process assets updates, change request, project management plan updates, and project document updates. In control cost process baseline, cost of each deliverable is compared against the actual cost. The cost baseline should change only in response to a change request that has gone through the perform integrated change control process. Control cost ensures that your projects stay within funding limitations. The inputs are project management plan, project funding requirements, work performance information, and control cost organizational process assets. And the outputs include earned value work performance measurements, earned value budget forecast in control costs, change request, project management plan updates, project document updates, and organizational process assets updates. The control quality ensures that the project and product are delivered in accordance to the quality management plan. The major output of the control quality is quality management plan. The other information that will be helpful are existing flowchart, upper and lower control and specification limits contained within the control charts. Information is referenced such as sample criteria, sampling numbers, measurements, and variable sampling. Quality matrices, which is a standard measurement to meet the quality requirements. And it also ensures that the proper steps are being followed in order to comply with aspects such as process, policies, or regulations. The four main outputs from the process are integrated change control, approved change request review, and validated changes. Control communication ensures that the right information reaches to the stakeholder. Control communication can be in any format. It can be trending data, tabulated information, S-curve, dashboard formats, or you can use histograms. In control communication process, work information is taken from various other processes and the performance report is used as an input for various monitoring and managing processes. The main deliverables from the control communication process is the performance record. Throughout the project cycle, risk analysis is a continuous process. It is important that you continuously analyze, identify, and respond to risk. The activities include in control risk are tracking existing risk, monitoring residual risk, identifying new risk, implementing risk response plans, continuously evaluating the risk process. The input of control risk are risk register and its updated versions, work performance information, performance reports, reserve analysis, risk management plan, and risk audits. The control procurement process is a closure phase involving monitoring the vendor's performance and ensuring that all contract requirements are being met. The control procurement process involves verifying whether goods or services being delivered, whether it is delivered on time, whether invoice charged is for correct quantity, whether all conditions of the contract being met, whether the relationship between buyer or seller are managed properly. The major input for process are project management plan, procurement documents, agreements, approved change request, work performance reports, and work performance data. The outputs are work performance information, change request, project management plan updates, project document updates, and organizational process assets updates. Many projects stumble due to inadequate management of stakeholders. If the stakeholders are managed properly, there are more chances for project success. In this process, we monitor the current engagement level of stakeholders and take actions accordingly. The input for all these activities include plan stakeholder management, issue log, work performance data, and project documents. The outputs are work performance information, change request, project management plan activities, project documents updates, and organization process assets updates. Closing phase is the process that performs the controlled shutdown of the project at the end. In a project, there are three closure activities: closure of the product, closure of the project, closure of the resources behind the project. Closure of the product is the activity of getting the customer to accept the final deliverables if the project is external. Closure of the project activity includes formally closing of administrative procedures, updating project documents, and archiving those databases and documents. Closure of the resource behind the project activity is the financial closure of the project, and the resources assigned to the project should be returned. The inputs for this process include project management plan, accepted deliverables, and organizational process assets updates. The output includes final output, service or result transition, organizational process assets updates. With this, we come to the end of this lecture. Stay tuned for the upcoming lectures.